being stupid on this channel because I'm stupid. Hey, it's Chris. So we're looking back a year ago, right? End of 2023. The best games I played, and looking back and saying the must-haves, the I need to play this, the this is awesome in my collection. These are my best ones of December 2023. And how do I feel about them now? Are they even still in my collection now is sometimes a better question. Because, or have you even played them in the last year? Are you ready? Spicy takes here. Let's go. So a year ago, in December 2023, I played 20 different board games. And some of them are not in my collection anymore. Some of them are still in my collection. Some of them I haven't played since, and some of them, they're still in my collection, but I don't really want them. What's this shirt doing here? So that's the question, right? They were hot. They were the rage at that time. No, not blood rage. But they were, in some way, shape, or form, feeling like these were the ones that needed to be had, right? So where do things stand? Do they stand the test of time in this situation? It's one of the main things I like to talk about on my channel, because there is always the next thing. But is it still the thing later on? Okay, first up, right? The biggest name on this list. Dune Imperium Uprising. Dune Imperium Uprising. Well, did it stay in the collection? Wow. Wow. No, that's not just a placard, right? Like, I'm sure there's somebody in the comment section right now going, that's just the box. He didn't actually, nope, this is the full thing. See, it's not just a cutout or anything like that, right? So, I got it. It's still here. It's a freaking amazing game, right? Bloodlines is my #1 wanted list game right now at the time of me filming this. So, Direwolf Digital has got a good thing. As I said when I was just looking back at filming prior to this, the 2022's Where Are They Now sort of things, I was talking about Clank. And the fact that you got clank, 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 clank when the hotness hit with that. And they just spit out as many clanks as they could. Same thing that's going on with Dune right now, right? People always talk about the fact that crowdfunding is always the one that's saying, I'm going to give you more of this because I just delivered and it's getting hotness. And so retail does the same freaking thing. Don't be deluded by the fact that it's retail and it's better, because that's what sometimes people think. If it's good, it will come to retail. Retail just keeps spitting it out the same way crowdfunding does. So don't fool yourself in that regard. But yes, the worker placement deck building is amazing. The solo mode is fantastic. And I say that as a non-solo person as well. The additions of the changes from the base game make it even better than Dune Imperium, right? It's one of those where you only recommend Dune Imperium Uprising if you're only getting the base game. Again, how the expansions are compatible with Uprising versus the original, that's still debatable. Some people prefer the original with both expansions, but I would always make the argument again, if you have to buy both expansions to make it better than just one game alone, now that's going to be a bigger question mark then for those people, what Bloodlines does for Uprising than the original did with the other two. So anyway, it's fantastic. Marvel freaking United. Of course Marvel United is still in my collection. Where the freaking deuce is my Marvel Multiverse, though? Yup, still, very end of December, don't have it. Man, that just peeves me off more than anything else. It's not going to be on my best of 2024 list because I don't have it. And I'm not going to be one of those people that has to go out and buy the core box so I can say that I played it so that I can include it on my list. Nope. It's one of my best games of all time. My pledge is in the nether regions. And this whole thing of you just not telling us how many shipping containers you haven't booked, I'm sorry. It's inappropriate, it's irresponsible, and it's kind of like I tell my kids, right? It's not that you lied, but you clearly also purposefully did not tell the truth with this. You could have told us at the very beginning, hey guys, we need to book 12 containers and we only have the funds, or we only have the space to do X. Every month being strung along for the last 6 months with this. Anyway, Anyway, I love it. I got Spider-Geddon. It's still sitting, I believe, actually behind one of these two situations. Spider-Geddon, I'll be honest with you guys, I could lose that expansion and not be terribly heartbroken because I didn't think it was very well balanced in terms of incorporation with the other ones. I liked what some of the character powers are bringing, but it felt like it was very niche. Like you had the heroes that specifically countered the villains, you had the villain powers that specifically countered the hero ones, and if you kind of put them with other ones, it was kind of just a miss potentially one way or the other, either too easy or too hard. So I could easily get rid of that one. The other one that was super hot for me, Nekojima. I covered this last year as a review. The little cats hanging by wires. Is it still in my collection? Yes. Do I love it? Yes. Am I as enamored with it? Not as much, but that's not because I don't like it. I think the delicacy of this game, the wires are a little too long, to be frank with you, and all of them. And so it makes the tilting over of it just way too easy. But I don't really have anything like it dexterity-wise in terms of stacking the little wooden poles with the strings and the cats. And the cats, again, the cats are probably a little too big and a little bit too unbalanced. So is it a perfect game? No, I think it could really honestly probably benefit from a few small tweaks in that way from an actual physical component aspect, which is weird to say. But if it did, and it didn't always, end super early, it would be an even better game. Then, Maple Valley. If you've heard my channel or heard me talk about this before, it's a fine kids' table board game, right? But it's resource management, the board game as well. Including with a little mini expansion, there's like 13 different resources in it. And you allocate these different tokens at the beginning of the game to different parts of the board randomly. And then you go and hop between these places and gather them and get your little cards, which are your workers. And then you utilize them on an action basis system. But that's like the main most powerful aspect, and you don't get to utilize that as much. And the beginnings of it are one of those situations where it reminds me of a quote I heard from a game designer years ago. And they said, hey, if your players are all doing the same actions every single time on the same beginning of the game, then maybe you should just have them skip those and start a little bit later in terms of the interesting stuff. And that's what it feels like to me, is that, okay, the motions are kind of being just kind of gone through at the beginning of the game, and then you get to a little bit more of the interesting decision making. But even some of the cards and the randomness that goes with the powers and abilities that you're allocating and gathering just didn't feel completely balanced to me. And so I haven't gotten rid of it, but that's not for lack of trying either, even with the little Kickstarter exclusive mini expansion version of things that they did. So I would have no problem getting rid of that as well. My most played game of the month, though, was actually the soccer flicking marble game called Binho. And truth be told, it's probably my kid's favorite game. It's probably the most requested game because all it is this little turf field. And to be frank with you, the only reason I haven't bought my 9-year-old a copy of it himself is it's way overpriced for what it is as a bourgeois luxury game, essentially, because the boards are like $90 to $100. Even on Black Friday, they were down to $72. And I feel really bad, but it's just that. Because the quality actually, if you look at it with the little goal posts and the actual turf is basically just like hot glued to a piece of like wooden whatever. And so they really kind of seem to be bare minimuming it, if you ask me, in terms of that. Is it fun though? Yeah. Is it really that skillful? No, and that's probably my biggest problem with it. But it's still fun, and my kids love it as a family that watches a whole lot of soccer/football, whatever part of the world you're in. And so, is it going anywhere? No. And like I said, I almost bought my kid a copy on Black Friday for $72, but right? So it's not going anywhere. Who am I kidding? It's still fun. Then Daybreak, CMYK's cooperative game. I think I had this just outside my top 10 of 2023. I still have mixed feelings about it. It's a little bit of a runaway puzzle one way or the other by the time you get to round 3 or 4. The deck drawing is still way too random, and unless you peek at them using your powers, you just don't have a clue of what you're going to be going up against that round in terms of the negatives or the positives. So it kind of almost makes that superfluous and less important overall, which is anticlimactic. I like the theme. I think the thematic incorporation is great. I like the card engine building. I don't like the fact that you have to play with certain combinations of, factions, if you will, in a certain order. That's why I liked Hegemony more this year, or Root, where you don't have to have X and then Y and then Z. You can play with Z and then Q and then F if you want, and it will still work just as well. That's my big criticism. And I truthfully haven't really played it a whole lot since last year. And so it's one of those where I like the idea of it, I think, more than I probably like the actuality of it at this point, if I'm being completely honest with myself from the get-go. So I have to put that one out there. Apiary. Again, I actually traded Apiary. I thought it was a fine Stonemaier game. I don't mind the worker placement revolution of the little die that you're upgrading your worker powers as. I don't mind the ability to get them back and then get them out again. But I didn't feel like the cohesiveness between all of the worker placement spots was exactly what I liked. I thought there were just way too many. It seems like that seems to be the raging trend of a lot of the worker placement games, is we're just going to give you, you know, I don't know, say 12 different worker placement spots and just go. And we're going to make all of them have like 4 different minutias or levels or different ways of changing. And that's where we're going to put the complexity of you trying to memorize all of that rather than the actual decision making sometimes. Not saying that did all of that. I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but at least that gave me a slight feeling. I didn't feel like the factions were that asymmetric, right? When you're advertising asymmetric factions a galore, 20 or whatever it was, maybe like 12 in the base game, I don't know. I just wanted a little bit more out of it rather than just a little random tile setup at the beginning being slightly different. It doesn't do it for me from an asymmetric, loving game person. So there you go. Among Cultists, social deduction thriller. There's too many moving parts. It's like the next board game equivalent of like a Blood on the Clock Tower, if you will. It is fantastic for what it is. But if you don't have the dynamic, the patience, and the everyone understanding completely and utterly every single element of things like Blood on the Clock Tower, you can see why other people really enjoy it. I mean, I look at it, I know why people love it, and I don't have the group dynamic for that. Just like Blood on the Clock Tower. You know, it's always an interesting conversation when I see the Blood on the Clock Tower discussions get posted elsewhere on the internet, right? You've got just the fervent diehards who are under the extreme belief that this is the end-all, be-all, not only of social deduction games, but games in general of the century, of the lifetime of the year, goats. And then you've got the people that are like, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit more complicated werewolf. And again, it is more complicated werewolf, because ultimately a lot of it is just random accusations still with a slight more nuance. Yeah, I'm dumbing it down and distilling it. I'm being a little bit, again, tongue-in-cheek. But you know what? It's somewhere in the middle. But you need to have that dynamic. You need to have a lot of people that have played it a lot, that know every single upkeep. And then it's going to be fantastic. And that's what I'm saying with Among Cultists. And if that's not you, if social deduction games are not your heavy mainstay, you're better off with something that's lower overhead, less of a teach. You know, don't want to be teaching a social deduction game for 30 to 40 minutes, which is what this can turn into if that's not the group that you have in the first place. I have it. I would be not at a loss to lose it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Unmatched, Tales to Amaze. Well, still there, right? Yeah, so I wanted the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? And I said, just like with Dice Throne Outcasts, it's going to end up in my collection, and I just don't see any reason to back it on crowdfunding. I have absolutely zero interest in a, I don't know what, 30 card alt art promo pack, right? I'll take the risk that it's not less on the secondary market, I can't trade for it, or it's not going to be slightly less at retail, right? You know what? If you paid slightly more and got the alt art and you're happy, I'm happy paying slightly less, not getting the alt art, and being happy with that too, right? I don't have anything wrong with that, but you know what? I choose where my free indie loan goes, and I decided, you know what? I'm not needing that right now. I'm okay with that. I also was hoping that they were going to give us a few more bosses to port over, or to, you know, upgrade kit Arcadia Quest Masmora style, where you can have some interplay with some of the other sets out there. I mean, that's just an untapped market, I feel like. But we're getting more retail in the form of The Witcher this month, so I'm actually more enamored with picking up The Witcher, both of those sets, not pre-ordered. I don't want this stupid Geralt miniature. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That's right. Because that stupid miniature is stupid. I stand by my stupid comments being stupid on this channel because I'm stupid. But that's what I can pay for it, right? I can get both of those Unmatched Witcher sets right now, know what they're entailing, have them on my doorstep, and be playing with them for over a year before the other one comes, essentially. Maybe not a year. Restoration Ink Games actually does a really good job in terms of timing, so you'll probably have it like 2/3 of the way through 2025. But that's my point. Less price, sooner, and honestly, as much as I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, IP that more appeals to me from A Witcher. So the game is the game, right? The game is the game. And so the game is fantastic. And the game is one of my go-to intro to anybody, play with everybody. Everybody loves. The game name is horrible. And so I have the old version, the old like red and black card version before they put out the new fancy aesthetic art version. So it's fantastic from that aspect of things. Then what else? Art Society. I mean, again, as a weird bidding tile placement game, I know why people like it. It's clever and unique, and some of the mechanisms that it incorporates with those two things being smashed together. But it just felt like a swing and the miss, sort of like Princess of Florence and recently the redid Medici from Steamforged. Just something about that different aspect of tiling. And again, maybe I'm just not an auction person in general as a whole. I don't think I really am. And so my own bias is more than anything else. Not a bad game, but just one that I kind of go, okay, fantastic. Next. So that's kind of why. And then, you know what? Let's finish this up with Skoventyr, right? This is another in the lines of my fails for retail. And I've said this on the channel many a times. I have very high reluctance to buy at retail because for some reason my retail sense isn't always as good as my crowdfunding sense, if you will. And a 1 to 4 player Danish folklore going around the tree trying to cooperatively play cards, essentially. The artwork is fantastic. It's Dutrait's artwork, but you play an ally, you discard an ally for its power, or you add an ally to your hand while paying for it by weakening your position. And you need to not get caught by the bad guy who's kind of circling around, because you can like go in the trees and, you know, escape and move him back, and you have to defeat all the minions. It's very hard. It's very unintuitive, and I thought we were going to like it because I really am a hard co-op fan on this channel, and it's just never clicked. We played it like 3 or 4 times in the short time after we got it, and I haven't played it since, and I don't even think I could sell it. I mean, you could probably sell it for like $5. Anybody want to buy it for $5? Let me know in the comment section down below. Not a bad game. It's just one of those, again, like that I thought was absolutely going to click and just completely did not. And I feel ashamed. Actually, last up, we'll go with this, right? Marvel Zombies. I still have all of my Marvel Zombies. Has not really gotten played hardly at all since last year. This was my foray into Zombicide. This was my foray into wanting to like more Zombicide. This was my foray into having another of the Marvel games that I love. Marvel Legendary, Marvel United, Marvel Champions, and now Marvel Dice Throne, and then Marvel Zombicide. And I just can't get into it. Like, I just can't immerse myself. I just can't get it played comparatively to any of those others, even Champions. And so I have no freaking clue what I want to do with this, and I've tried getting rid of it, and I haven't had anybody really interested. And so I'm just not sure if it's just general disinterest, oversaturation, or again, just what. So I can't say that it's hard to get to the table, super hard, but I can't say comparatively in terms of setup, overhead, minutia, all of that stuff, especially when you're playing with kids, right? Because this is more designed to them right now, probably than my game group, which is probably my fault as a whole, that there's a lot of upkeep that I'm having to do, which means that they're not doing, that I have additionally on my shoulders. And so maybe game group would be better fit. But again, going up against the other stuffs, the Primals, the Oathsworns, the Aeons, you know, whatever else it may be, enormities, it's a hard sell as this middleweight, or even a Cthulhu, or even a Nemesis. I'd almost rather get any of those played if that's going to be that weight and that time frame. So that is the dilemma right now as a whole. So those are my bests. Looking back, where are they? How do I feel about them? And do I still have them, or would I be upset if I didn't, right? So there you go. Stay classy. Where are you at with that? You like this? Let me know down below. Stay classy. I have a Patreon. Check that out. As always, use me as the example of what not to do. And if I help you save money that way, support me on Patreon. I should really throw that in the video earlier. Peace out. Stay classy.